And welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Yesterday, the FBI arrived on Capitol Hill to show the leaders of House oversight allegations that the president is corrupt, allegations he's been taking money from yet another foreign country, an adversarial country at that. There is evidence Joe Biden and his bagman Hunter have taken money from countries all over the world: China, Ukraine, Romania, Kazakhstan, and the list continues to grow. The millions the Bidens have taken in is undeniable. The methods also undeniable, money being funneled through various accounts to conceal the source, also known as money laundering. Anybody with a functioning brain can see what the president has been doing. They're not that smart. It's pretty easy to see. Selling his power, using his black sheep son to collect the cash. His mooch brother and the rest of the family the beneficiaries. Taking money to help, in some cases, our adversaries. It is treasonous. And yet the American media continues its mission to absolve the President of the United States of any wrongdoing. The Washington Post at one point was a great paper, although it's been a long time. Now it's just a pitiful collection of D.C. uniparty shills pretending to be journalists and going to cocktail parties. And with astonishing allegations and plenty of credible evidence of corruption, here's the Post headline on this story from today. This is it. FBI had reviewed closed inquiry into Biden claims at center of Hill fight. And they threw it on probably the fourth page. That's it. Allegations the President of the United States has taken money from foreign adversaries. That's all you get if you read the Washington Post. It's just a parody at this point. That's how they frame the most jaw-dropping corruption allegations probably ever against a sitting president in this country, with a desperate headline based on this lie that we heard from Jamie Raskin just yesterday.
What I know is that the FBI Department of Justice team under William Barr and Scott Brady in the Western District of Pennsylvania terminated the investigation. They said there were no grounds for further investigative steps.
That's all they needed. Washington Post watched that little snippet and based its only reporting on presidential corruption on that few seconds right there. And then apparently they stopped listening intentionally to protect their agenda, because 3 seconds later, that congressman was fully debunked by a journalist who corrected him. Here's that moment.
Comer said that it was part of an ongoing investigation, and that's what he learned.
Okay, but then I must have missed that, because I've not heard that this is part of any ongoing investigation.
Oh, it's part of an active investigation? No, I didn't hear that. Yes, you did. We've been informed the FBI told Congressman Comer and Raskin at least 4 times yesterday that the allegation that was being brought was part of an active investigation. Now, Jamie Raskin is a political hack. He's going to lie. We should expect that. But the shameless shills at the Washington Post ignoring the truth, ignoring the second part of the same question to write a desperate headline to absolve the president of allegations of corruption. That is egregious even by today's ridiculous standards for journalism, which have all been thrown out the window in the last several years. It shouldn't shock us, though. The media drank its own Kool-Aid. They've been manufacturing fear that Donald Trump is actually a fascist and actually a threat to democracy for years, which means that they really can't report anything that could help Donald Trump in 2024. Rather to have a president who's selling out our country to China and wherever else than a dreaded populist back in the White House. Listen to MSNBC this morning and Politico's White House reporter. Watch how he frames this question to the leader of the House Democrats.
I want to get your response, though, to a far more partisan endeavor, which is some of your Republican colleagues' efforts to investigate President Biden and his family. We heard from Congressman Comer in recent days disregarding, what he said, making clear that polls are what's driving some of this investigation. And now an effort from some Republicans to hold the FBI director in contempt.
They want to defund the FBI. They want to investigate FBI agents. Now they want to hold the FBI director in contempt.
3-hour show, that's all you get. That's Jonathan Lemire right there, or Lemire. If you ever see his name in a byline from Politico, don't even bother reading it. You know what he is. You'd have to assume at this point that he's getting paid by the DNC to be that insufferably partisan, to exonerate the president in the question to the Democrat House leader? How in the tank can you possibly be and work for Politico? How embarrassing for him. And you notice we never get an answer from Hakeem Jeffries to the question, because Hakeem Jeffries has no answer. He immediately flips to some nonsense about January 6th. He screams MAGA Republicans. He does all his little dog whistling to the wackos that watch MSNBC, and he moves on because he and everyone else in Washington know the president is not only corrupt, but the president is treasonously corrupt. An American politician taking money to help the Chinese we know about and at least one other adversarial country. That's treasonous. It is the biggest story in the country, and it's almost nowhere to be found. That should scare the hell out of you. And the media is creating this illusion by holding only this investigation, the one into Joe Biden, to the absolute highest standards possible. From that same Washington Post article, Comer, who is leading the House Republicans' probe into the Biden family's finances, has raised questions about business dealings between foreign entities and Hunter Biden when his father was vice president, but he has yet to unearth evidence of illegal activity or any that directly implicates the elder Biden. That's just patently false. There's so much evidence that the elder Biden has been involved in this. Did they miss the interview with Tony Bobolinsky because the rest of us saw it? Let's put it this way. The media will marginalize this story. They will pretend it doesn't exist literally until Joe Biden does a sit-down interview with them and fully admits to every allegation while weeping into his hands. That's the bar for a story about Joe Biden. That's how ridiculous it is right now. Millions of dollars, millions and millions and millions of dollars, concealing transactions through money laundering in multiple accounts, multiple credible whistleblowers, a federal attorney, people at the IRS, people that work directly with Hunter Biden, one of his business partners that sat in meetings with Hunter and Joe. These are the whistleblowers. Nobody denies that. They just act like they don't exist. All saying Biden took money for policy decisions. A laptop containing text messages of Hunter Biden, a grown man, saying he has to give his father half of his income. How many 50-year-old men have to give their dad half of their income? Did you have to do that? I hope I don't. All of that, and the Washington Post and the rest of them say there is no evidence of corruption. It's state-run media right before your very eyes. This is China if there's a bad story about Xi Jinping. It's the same thing. This morning, CBS did a brief eulogy to traitorous spy Robert Hanssen, who died in prison this week. You might not know the story, but it's an interesting one. But take a listen to the description of this man who sold out his country and rotted in prison until he died. The details are almost exactly the same as what whistleblowers say Joe Biden and his family have been doing for years.
The former special agent pleaded guilty to 15 counts of espionage and conspiracy back in 2001 for giving highly classified national security information to the former Soviet Union and Russia. Over 16 years of spying for Moscow, Hanssen was paid $1.4 million in cash and also diamonds. Sources tell CBS News in the end he died of natural causes. He was 79 years old.
Diamonds and cash to help the Russians. It sounds very familiar. Well, Hunter Biden got a big, fat, multi-million-dollar diamond from the head of a Chinese energy firm as he and his father worked to the benefit of China, an adversarial country. Hunter also got a lot of money from Russia, just like that spy. $3.5 million Hunter got from the mayor of Moscow's wife. But of course, there's no evidence of any wrongdoing, according to the Washington Post, because the acts were not recorded in HD video and followed by full confessions, which, of course, is the standard for any evidence of corruption when you're talking about a Democrat. CBS News will cover the death of a spy who was convicted more than 20 years ago for treason, but has no interest in the same story when it involves the sitting president of the United States. Just digest that. House Oversight Chairman James Comer joins me now. Sir, it's good to have you back on. Since Democrats lie about this constantly and we have no real media in this country anymore, I wanted to do some debunking with you tonight. And I want to start with this. Yesterday, your colleague, Jamie Raskin, jumped in front of the media, tried to discredit what the FBI showed you at Capitol Hill, claiming that this is something that came from Rudy Giuliani, that Rudy dug up in Ukraine, which he knows is if he says Rudy Giuliani, all his Biden supporters that listen to him will think, oh, it's immediately a conspiracy theory. Take a look at this.
Rudy Giuliani surfaced these allegations. This group was appointed, and they looked into the Form 1023, determined that there was no grounds to escalate from an initial assessment to a preliminary investigation.
Is that true?
No. Jamie Raskin sat by me for 90 minutes in a classified setting for a briefing from 4 top-level FBI executives and walked right out to the press conference right after I departed the stage and lied to the American people. This has nothing to do with Rudy Giuliani. This Form 1023 has nothing to do with Rudy Giuliani. And the FBI said 4 times that this document was needed to be protected because it's part of an ongoing investigation.
Ongoing investigation. Yeah. Jamie Raskin's taken a lot of cues from Adam Schiff, I would say. You know, he's going into a meeting and coming out with lies. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Another claim is that the document is just secondhand hearsay. It's one person overheard something else or someone else saying something. Ironically, that's exactly the kind of testimony that was used to impeach former President Trump over the call with Zelensky. But suddenly, again, that bar is far too low for evidence against President Biden. What is the real story with the hearsay claim that they're making?
Well, the human informant, according to the FBI, is one of the most trusted, most accomplished informants, paid informants in the entire Bureau. He's one of the highest paid informants in the Bureau. He's been with the Bureau for 13 years, dating back to the Obama administration, still currently with the Bureau. So the fact that this particular human source is one of the most valuable agents to the FBI shows that the allegation should be pretty credible. But here's what's credible to me, Rob, is the fact that this form that we're requesting was written in June of 2020. It alleges bribery of significant payment to Joe Biden, and that the payee informed the human source that nobody would ever find it because the way the Bidens wanted the money was to be sent through multiple banks and multiple essentially shell companies before it got to the Biden family. So that sounds very familiar to what we found in Romania. There is a pattern here of the Bidens doing this while Joe Biden was vice president. That's why I believe that this allegation from according to the FBI, one of the most credible paid informants in the whole system, that's why I think this is a credible allegation. And I'll say this, Rob, I do not believe the FBI ever investigated this. Just because Raskin says the case is closed, and I don't know that was part of what Bill Barr closed or not. We're trying to determine that. But let me say this. I don't think anyone knew at the time, because they didn't look, that the Bidens had all these shell companies and had all these bank accounts and had all these bank violations alleged they were laundering money between the shell accounts.
It was an election year, and here's how China looked, by the way. This graphic here shows how they tried to obscure the money coming in. I mean, Hudson West, all this nonsense going through all these different avenues to get to where they're going. Nobody wanted to find it. The FBI did not want to find this, and there was allegations in 2018 too. They don't want to see it. They certainly don't want to see it in an election year. You know that. You're going to hold Christopher Wray in contempt. You're going to attempt to hold him in contempt on Thursday. How does that play out? Do you think you have the votes for this?
I have the votes in the committee. I'm very confident about how the vote in the committee will go on Thursday morning. Obviously, the director has another 24 hours to come up with the document that we subpoenaed. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. If he doesn't present the document Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, we'll have a vote.
Yeah. You know what's the most amazing thing about this story is how powerful government and its control of the media is, what they can marginalize, the amount of evidence that they can make disappear. It's really been, to me, it's been an eye-opening experience to what government is capable of, because this evidence is insane, and nobody else is talking about it.
Right. If we hadn't produced the bank records and a whole list, almost 20 shell companies
Yeah.
that the Bidens created, most of which they incorporated while he was vice president,
Yeah.
then I could see the skepticism among the media. But my God, Rob, we've already produced bank records. We've already shown bank wires and shell companies and bank violations alleging money laundering. I mean, this is unbelievable that the Washington Post and New York Times continue to defend this president.
That's what makes it so obvious. Anybody with a functioning brain can see exactly what's going on here, and the media are pretending like it's not happening. That's what's so scary. Congressman, always good to see you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thanks.